PUTINWORKTV. We've enjoyed watching your journey and growth as an artist/creator in the New England scene and really want to hear more about your story. Our focus is allowing our guests to tell their stories front and center without judgment or opinion. So let's dive straight in. How did it all begin, Sadiq?
Oh man, that's a loaded question. I don't know. I guess if I were to say where it started for real, I'd throw it back to when I was 13. My father brought me my first camera, and I fell in love with taking pictures. It's been a hobby of mine on and off for the years. I've always loved music, so that has always been in the background. But when we're talking specific to like the thrill community and the Boston community, I paid attention to a lot of things for a long time, and there was a point in my life where my inner friend circle switched up, and one of the ways that I grounded myself after that was leaning into things I really loved. Photography was definitely one of those things, and I ended up being invited and showing up to take pictures at some of these people's events because I was like, wow, I have to put myself back out there. So I started taking pictures. One of the really big events I remember shooting, Camera Girl, she had like a Camera Clothing birthday bash to celebrate, her company. I forget how many years old it was at that point, but it was really big, and it was at this park in Dorchester, and I basically told her hey, I'll shoot the whole thing. And it was just a great time. I got to meet a lot of people, take beautiful pictures of people in the community, and when we posted them, more people started to recognize me that way. So that was my in. Another beautiful thing about photography is when you take pictures of people and you're editing, you get to remember a lot of people's faces. So that was really cool, and I was able to put faces to names pretty quickly. And I'd just show up. People started to recognize me for some of my photography. That was one thing I really loved, but my background's in a lot of different things. I work in events. That's been something that's been a passion of mine since college. And concerts and stuff like that, whether that was working in venues or, behind the scenes at big sports events at my university or, any number of things. And I tied that work into everything else I was doing. So I started to wear a lot of hats in the event space, whether that could be helping friends get booked. There was a good friend of mine at college that was a poet, and I wanted to help her find more opportunities. So that was a booking lane I was in. And then, I've always been into photography, and that leaned into marketing and so many different things. It's splintered into, so it's all over the place, but I'd say that's where it started.
That's an amazing answer. You said it was a loaded question. You gave me a loaded answer.
Right, that was a great answer.
So let me ask you, what does it feel like when you have that camera in your hands? What's the feeling?
Man, I think it's freeing in that it allows you to impress your own view on things, not in a way that's invasive to anybody else. It's just hey, this is the way I view the world. I really love to look at things this way, and sometimes it's in ways that people would never expect from you. And being able to share that in a way that doesn't impact anybody else negatively, I feel is beautiful, And I've always appreciated being able to share my perspective, and it's almost most people in photography, a lot of people I know don't like to be in front of the camera. So, being behind the camera and still being able to share your take on these different things and have people really like and appreciate and respect that is such a beautiful feeling. So when I get behind the camera, I know that's one way that I'm helping share how I view things, whether that's the beauty or power or anything else I see in all these other people, but it's also helping them see themselves in new lights.
Wow. Could you live without your camera, bro?
I probably could. I'm not gonna lie. I have a phone. I'll try to take pictures here and there. I do enjoy it though, and sometimes I have my hands in a lot of different things, so it's hard to say there'll be times where I'll go 2.5 weeks without touching my camera, and I'll be dang, why am I feeling like this? I need to, and then I pick up my camera. It's one of those times you pick up a book after a long time, and you're oh, this is the kind of stimulation I really needed. it.
Yeah.
So
You ever considered that just your camera has almost like a part of your soul in it?
that's interesting. Honestly, yeah. Like I wouldn't have thought about that before you said it that way, but like when I think about my camera and that I love to take pictures, I get a lot of that from my father. So my dad has this. That's funny. He's calling me right now.
Oh, that's so crazy.
Actually crazy.
Synchronicity.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
But what do you call it? My dad, he has literal like old briefcases full of pictures and photo albums full of pictures. And he's like one of the only people in the family that has all of those, right? So like he's even like film negatives, like back when like my grandfather would take pictures and stuff. And he'd be like, if there's ever a fire or anything happens, just get the pictures. You know, like that's all that matters. Everything else can be replaced. So
you are a carbon copy of him.
Yeah, it's in the weirdest way, yes. You know, my father is crazy in the best way, but I love him so much.
So let's bring it back to your origin story. You know, every character has an arc. What was it like growing up from where you were from, your environment?
For sure. I grew up in Boston. I was born and raised in Mattapan. I also have both sets of grandparents here and a ton of cousins. So I'm very blessed to be surrounded by family. The other thing, though, about family is when you have a really big family, it can either be really amazing or people are really cliquey, you know? And we definitely found it to be kind of like that. But, you know, I grew up in Mattapan, and I was one of those kids that, you know, we hang outside, don't leave the block, don't do this and that. So I'd be around and exposed to a lot of different things in the neighborhood. But I was someone, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the METCO program, but it's basically a program that started out of like 70s, 80s. I might be messing up my dates here. But it was started to integrate, you know, suburban schools. So they started busing inner city kids out to the suburbs. And since the first grade, my twin sister and I were in Newton Public Schools. So we started to, you know, from then through 12th grade, that's what we were doing. We were always being bussed out. And, you know, looking back, I really appreciate the educational opportunities it gave me. But it was definitely like, kind of like two worlds I was navigating because, you know, I'd get up at 5, 6 a.m., get bussed out to the suburbs and around a ton of people that don't look like me and don't share the same experiences as me. And then come back to the hood and go to the Boys and Girls Club. And,
huge disconnect.
You know, it was weird, but you get used to it, bro. You do like 10, 12 years in that space, like you know how to navigate those spaces. And when you graduate and you go on to college or anywhere else where, you know, it reflects the real world. And a lot of the different spaces I was taught to navigate weren't always the blackest spaces or the brownest spaces. And so I feel like it prepared you for the real world. And it also showed me like the beauty and diversity of thought when there's not a whole like ethnic diversity. And I really appreciated that. But going back to just the neighborhood, I mean, like I was exposed to a lot of stuff. My parents split up when we were 2. So like there was a lot of hecticness going back and forth between our parents. You know, there was a lot of negative stuff like drugs and just so many just negative things, you know. And one of the things, I ended up moving in with my father when I was 13, when he gained custody of my sister and I. And he was really big on making sure we got into different kinds of programs that kept us out of like the bullshit that was going on in the neighborhood. Because, you know, we had young friends that died, we had all of that kind of stuff around us, and drugs, and like seeing firsthand the negativity of some of this stuff and not wanting to be products of that. And my father was pretty adamant about making sure we would never turn out like that, you know? So, you know, camp was huge in my life. Like I attended Crossroads for Kids, C5's teen leadership program for years. That helped get me out the neighborhood. The Boys and Girls Club helped me get out the neighborhood. They took me to India. You know, and for any kid off of any block in Mattapan, it's like, yeah, I was in India or I was in Japan or like something like that. Like that's world changing for them. You know, they've never been exposed to anything like that. So I don't know. There was so many different things going on. Like I did have the family there. one of the big things I will say, a part of the negative things, is when I moved in with my father, you know, because we had lived with my mother for the majority of our life, up to that point, when we moved in with my father, there were a lot of things that changed, like financially, just living wise, whatever. And we moved a whole lot, you know. So like through most of my high school career, I was actually homeless. So like whether that's like family, like couch surfing, or that's like, you know, through the shelter system, scatter sites, stuff like that. There was a reason my father was adamant about having us in these programs where it's like we can get away from all of that and live normal childhoods while he's working on everything else, and then we could come home and shit straight. So a lot of respect to him for that. Yeah.
Would you say that adversity is the foundation of your strength?
Absolutely not. No. I'd say love is the foundation of that. And without people, because it doesn't matter what kind of adversity comes at you, like I feel like everyone experiences that at some point in their life, some people more than others, whatever. I feel like if I didn't have the people behind me that believed in me and could instill certain values in me and remind me, even when I'm struggling, of how strong we are and how much, you know, we've overcome, and to continue pushing forward, I wouldn't be where I am today, you know, so.
And so how did you learn to believe in yourself along with the love that people showed you? Because nothing starts until you can believe in yourself.
That's a fact. That's a great question. How did I learn to believe in myself? Okay, this is funny. When I was younger, one of the other things that I felt like kept me out of trouble a lot is I was like hugely into video games. Like to the point where I was completely addicted. Like I would sit all day. Like it was bad at one point where I'd get up to pee like twice and then get back down and just like computer games, consoles, you name it. And I don't know, I used to play so many different games that it's like I appreciated the story. I always had my own story. I always had a different perspective from a lot of my friends in the neighborhood because I was so immersed in these games. And like, I don't know, maybe I have my own hero arc in mind. You know, where it's
That's
like,
super cool.
you know, where it's like, whatever, I know what I'm talking about. Like, and I say it started there, and because that just kind of othered me in a way. Maybe not as much as I think it did, but, and then just like, I don't know, my father was always huge on individuality, you know, and he used to always tell me, like, he wished, because he was in the streets when he was younger and, like, really exposed to a lot of things. He lived through the crack epidemic, you know, like, and he's like, he always told me, he's like, I wish I never felt the need to fit in with people. I never felt like I needed to bring myself down to somebody else's level for them to get me or do any of these other things. And I feel like that's something that has always kind of rung in the back of my head, where it's like, yo, let them do their thing. Like, you might be goofy today or this or whatever, but if you stay true to yourself, like, how can you go wrong there, you know? So I always kind of had that in the back of my head, and I feel like that helped establish a lot. Also, I'd say going to, you know, predominantly white schools my entire life, like, we got that talk early on, like, you're different, you know? So it's like, you don't let anybody, you know, undermine your value in yourself or anything like that. Like, we're proud. He taught us a lot about our history, and, you know, like, I feel like I was raised by Black Panthers, but I can't say that, obviously. He just was very self-aware, and he could share a lot based on his experiences. So it's like, when I'm raised and I'm proud of myself and my Blackness and my abilities, especially recognizing, like, some of the spaces that I'm getting into, rooms I'm getting into, conversations I'm being made a part of that my peers might not be privy to, or experiences that they're really not exposed to. How am I gonna feel undermined by somebody who hasn't walked in my shoes, you know? And I feel like that also helped me better, like, understand and respect other people, even when I don't understand their actions or energy. I'm like, you know what? There's something there I don't understand. I'm not going to judge them necessarily for it. They got their own stuff to go through. In the long run, like, this is just a temporary experience. Like, if we have some disagreement or something, I'm going to let it rock. You know, and I hope people do the same to me.
That's amazing. So when did you know you were different as a kid?
I don't know. I don't know if this makes me different, but I feel like when my friend, the video game thing I was talking about, when my friends would come knocking at the door and they'd be like, "Could Sadiq come outside?" I'd literally be telling them, like, "Tell them I'm not here." So I'm like, that's a little bit different, but
instead of telling them, "Can I come outside?"
Yeah, you know, like, especially when I saw a lot of my peers like starting to get into different things. So I had close friends. One of my closest friends, his name's Devon. He's been one of my closest friends my entire life, and like, this dude was literally like captain of the football team. We was in high school, right? And it's just a completely different world type thing, because I've never been a huge sports person. I came to appreciate it in college, working in production and stuff like that, but I've never been huge into sports. So it was like seeing all these people gravitate towards certain things, and then I'm not. I'm like, damn, does that make me different? Am I weird? Like, we see people kind of isolate the weird kids who do different stuff like that. And it's like, well, I might not be into the same things as y'all, or I might not be on this far spectrum of being like an outsider. But they're like, "Oh, Sadiq's cool. Like, you know, like, he does his thing. He's whatever. Like, you don't have to." I never really had to fit in any way like that. And I always appreciated that, because I noticed it's not just a high school phenomenon, but in Boston and the world, you know, people do click up. People do this certain things. I did a lot of things by myself, to the point where, like, going to concerts by myself, going to protests by myself, going different things by myself. And I could walk between these different groups, go between these different circles, to where it started to get fluid. And I'm like, a lot of people can't do that. So, or I came to realize a lot of people couldn't do that. I don't know where I can put the timeline on that, but when I started to recognize that, I was like, I'm different in that I have a slightly greater awareness of some of the things going on around me, because I can go and hang out in Cambridge. I can go hang out in Newton. I can go hang out in Mattapan, on the hoodest streets ever, and nobody's gonna judge me. You know, they say whatever they want, but I'm like, I know I'm different in this way, and this is why.
So how does photography remain a constant in your life, and why is it important?
Photography is a constant in my life because it supports all the things that I love to do now, and it definitely opened the doors to a lot of things I do now. So, like, in events, events are amazing. You have to document them, right? You have to show, hey, this is what we did. I've also seen that, like, when you start to get sponsors or partners that buy into the work you're doing, you're like, let me show you the product of what we did. It's almost like making presentations. I feel like it helps tremendously with, like, the artists I work with. I work with Key, and I work with a spoken word artist out of Chicago named Mia Coleman. If we don't document, you know, the stuff that they're doing, they don't have content to push out and show the world that, hey, I'm active, I'm doing this stuff. It's also, like, I feel like it's important because, like, whenever there's a family event, like, people are like, yeah, call Sadiq, you got a camera, like, it's whatever. And I'll show up. It doesn't matter if we're at IHOP or if we're somewhere, you know, together. Like, I'll document that. And it's crazy to me because even the smallest things, like, there are photos I've taken of, like, my grandfather or, like, my baby cousins. And it's like, you're really capturing a moment in history, you know? And it might not seem like a lot when you're just looking through drives and drives of photos. You have thousands of them, but it's like that one photo is on somebody's like bookshelf, and that's how they remember their baby girl or this and that. You're gonna remember that for the rest of your life. Like, that's huge to me because we're literally capturing moments. So I definitely still use my camera to capture moments. That's how it stays a constant in my life.
That's the cameraman, huh? So what does your discography look like?
So that's interesting that you say that because I'm not an artist, but I'd like to say I help people place records and put them together. So I'll say the first record the first couple records I helped put together, the first I'll say is some of my homies in college. So two of my friends, Zach and Nana, very close to me and I care about them deeply. They have a group called Zenith and Zenith Music. And they started recording music together in college. And I just remember, like, sitting in, watching their process, or, like, offering advice here and there. And, like, this is somewhere, like, wherever, but we've definitely recorded together. But I'd say, like, just being a part of their process, supporting them however I can. I look at myself as when I can be a part of a record, it's literally doing just that, supporting however I can, whether that's supporting with vocals, whether that's supporting with ideas, arrangement, anything like that. Any small way you can help push the record forward, I see it as being kind of a part of that record. And the other partners or folks on the record are aware of that. I see that as being a part of the record. So I definitely say something from the Zenith camp. I couldn't even say. I think they have a song called Diamonds that I recorded on, which was super funny. But I'd say that song. I worked with a couple of producers before I started working with Key, and I was pretty close with a kid named Kid Wizzle, T-Wayne. It's the homie right there, and he had a group called Kid FM where he basically knew all these different producers from around the country, and he brought them together because he was trying to make like a producer group, and he really wanted them to start placing records, and they kind of tapped me, which is crazy because I'd never been in a position like that to help people get on records. But I was like sure, I'd help, and we tried to organize some meetings and cook up sessions around stuff and whatever, and it was a dope experience because it was the first time I'd ever done anything like that, but it also exposed me to all these super talented people. So I did put together like a photo shoot for them, and I used to pitch their records to different people. I remember I ended up getting one place for T-Wayne with an artist out of North Carolina who goes by Dad Body, and the record is called Coulda Been, which is like kind of as a joke for Drewski's like Coulda Been Records, and it's fire. So definitely encourage y'all to check it out if you can. And then, oh man, I'd say it probably went right to Key, and Key and I started working together. She had already dropped Baby Steps, and we worked on her last pretty much everything else she has out right now. So like from Terrible Twos, like putting her in the room with the producers I thought would be fire, encouraging her to record stuff that she almost didn't. Berserk that came out. Benz I didn't have as much to do with, but her most recent project, Child's Play, yeah, like we've just been working, and I'd say like that's probably been where I've seen the discography you're talking about like really grow, where I'm like, yeah, like let's put this together, this makes sense, and offering advice and support however I can, because she's such a amazing creative mind. Like I just feel like it's really easy to work with someone like her, so we get to put out a lot of records.
You recognize talent where you can.
I try. I mean, like, I'm the type of person, it's interesting you say it like that, because I don't always see it as just recognizing talent. I see it as seeing somebody who is great at what they do and wanting to share that with the world. Like, I'm the type of person where when I hear something or find something that I like, I'm not going to stop talking about it. I'll tell everybody. I'm like, yo, you seen this? You seen this? You seen this? Even when I was in college, like, I'd find different artists for the first time, whether that's, like, Baby Keem or Jid or Smino or, like, anybody. And I play it on repeat. Like, this is actually really funny. When I was in college, I had this Sony speaker that was, like, this big. And no matter what, I was going to play that speaker. So, like, even if, like, I'm getting in the shower, I'm bringing a big-ass speaker to the bathroom. And they used to be, like, memes on Instagram and Twitter and stuff. And I'd be like, that's literally me. Like,
Can't go anywhere without it.
It was pretty funny.
When you have that camera in your hands, what do you try to capture? What do you want people to see? When you take a picture, what is it that they will remember from Sadiq?
Whew, that's a great question. Honestly, I just want people to feel good about themselves. You know, like a lot of times people don't see things the way I see them. I feel like what I was saying earlier about photographers being able to impress their worldview on things, every photographer does that, you know, in their own way. It's rare. If you put the same camera in two different people's hands and attempted to take the same photo, I feel like no matter how close you can come to it, it's never going to be the exact same. And that's because of people's perspective and how they choose to look at things. So I just want them to see me and see a unique beauty in themselves that I saw, you know? And I don't know. I feel like that's really the way it should be for real. Like I'm not sitting there. I want them to come away like, oh, this is a cool picture. Like no, I want them to be like, oh my god, like I look so good. Look at my face, my lips, my whatever. Like another thing, I want them to feel some sort of connection. So like when I meet different people and I've shot with people like consistently versus someone I've shot with a little bit less, most of the people I've worked with more are like, I feel like you might take more flattering pictures of me than like other photographers I've been around or like shot only once or twice with. And that's because I've had the opportunity to really like get to know them and you understand where they're coming from and what their energy is like for real. And when you can reflect that in an image, and it's like, I want people to see you the way I see you. You know, like, I have immense respect for you. I see you as this amazing artist. Like, you're doing all these cool things. It's not just capturing, like, any moment in time. It's, like, who and what you are at that moment in time, too. So it's, like, there's one picture I love, actually, that happened almost completely by accident.
Those are the best pictures anyway.
You know, and it was at, so Clark D had Family Famous, I want to say 21, or I want to say it was 21, and this big concert at Black Market, and Maystar, he made this crazy entrance, and he was actually, like, on a ladder, like, rapping, and he screamed into the mic as the beat came in, and it was incredible, like, and I just happened to snatch this one picture.
While he was up there.
Yeah, and I had, bro, one of my settings, like, I had changed to monochrome because I was shooting in, like, black and white, but it was extra grainy, and I was trying to control the ISO and all this other shit. But I just took the picture, and I was looking at it, I was like, it's kind of fire. So then I ended up posting it, and like, it didn't get a whole bunch of burn, nothing like that, but Maystar, like, loved it, and he ended up using it for his uppery cover art, and, like, I never would have expected that, you know. I was like, oh, like, somebody sees this as dope, like, that's fire, like, he's like, then we got chopped up about it sometime, he's like, yo, like, I feel like that's, like, some Playboy Cardi shit, like, I really appreciate you, that's what I was kind of going for, you know, and that's the stuff that I want people to feel and see. You know, it doesn't have to be seen by a million people. If it could just be seen by me and the person that took it. But I'm like, I made you feel like a fucking rock star. I did my job right.
Most definitely. So
yeah,
your process from step one to the last step, how does it work? When you have the camera in your hand, and you know, most people have this misconception that anybody can be a photographer, but it's the way they impress their views on the world, just as you said. What is your process? How do you go from step one to the finished product?
Man, that's hard because I wouldn't say I have the same process every time. Like, fire up the camera, I start shooting, you know, I'll try a bunch of different angles, like, because, like, I don't know. I like to look through the viewfinder, but I also have, like, the screen. So I'll be looking at my screen a lot and just frame things in different ways. I get a lot of different ones so that, like, when I am going back through and editing, I can see different perspectives and, like, how they relate to one another. I'm like, I don't really like that one, but, ooh, this is cool. But I also get a better idea of what the better angles are by having all those different angles because I'm like, I really like this one in comparison to this over here. But if you don't have nothing to compare it to, like, you might just think, oh, this is fire, and then it's like, that's the worst angle of them, you know? But you need to see them to know what it is, and you have options for real. But I also go by, like, what's appealing, you know? Like, I see people, and I'm like, oh, dang, like, she's cute, or this is that from where I'm looking at it. I want people to see what I'm seeing. So, you know, I'll definitely try to go by that. I will try different settings. I really like stuff in black and white. I feel like it's clean. Some people call it super basic. Sometimes I'll shoot in black and white and then go back and edit afterward just because I feel like it makes shadows and other things more apparent.
Definitely.
And yeah, like there's not a real process. Like we could play with lighting, I play with shadows, see what's going on there. Sometimes I'll take a picture and it's just so perfect. I'm like, I don't have to do nothing to this, you know? And that's when I feel really good because I'm like, you captured that moment beautifully. You didn't need to alter, edit, or do anything to it. And that's how I personally feel like photography should be done. But I know people get really close to that and then do a little bit of editing. I like to capture things as they are and like the natural beauty of things. So yeah, I'll just be going through taking a bunch of pictures. Yeah, like I can't say there's a process. Like with any creative, I feel like creating can be kind of chaotic for real. So
it's the natural flow of energy.
Yeah, like there might be days I'm really not feeling it, and I don't have a process to fall back on. So I'm just like, I might not shoot today, or I might take a couple pictures, but they're not all that to me. And then there'll be other days where I'm like, nah, I need to do this. I need this angle. I need that. Or if there is some sort of inspiration, like I will say with some of the more complex shoots I put together, I really got this from Key too. Like shout out to her, putting. Like when you find all your influences and the things that you really like we'll make mood boards, we'll make all these different things and really pull it together and be like, well, these are the feelings, now we're building out this world. And what does this world look like? Is this world all about this cute girl, or is this world about her being unapologetic? Is this about like things around her don't seem as big? Like, are we trying to make them look big? What perspective are we looking at this from? Is there inspiration drawn from like Chucky, like Key's most recent project, or is it from something completely different? Like, as long as you have an idea of what you're going for, that's when it's gonna help best seeing that in the real world.
So tell me this. I heard that during your story that your father was a very important part of your life. Video games were, creativity, and how you differ from the crowd. You were never so-called a sheep. So what motivates you? What sparks the flame where you just can't, you have a burning desire to capture this moment?
Yeah, what motivates me? I'll say two things. Like, first and foremost is definitely my family. I feel like they've just impressed so many different things into me that no matter what I do, I'm not gonna half-ass it for real. And I've been trying my best to make sure that statement remains true, because I do have my hands in a lot of things, and sometimes it can feel stretched thin. And they definitely like motivate me there, and they're extremely supportive even when they have stuff to say. They're like, I still support you. And two, I don't know, I feel like when you're creative, a lot of stuff comes from, you have to motivate yourself for real. It's hard, but I feel like, this is kind of a cheap answer I'm going to say, I feel like most of the decisions you make can motivate you. So like, I know I can get down, I can get depressed even sometimes, I can get, unmotivated, but I made the active decision to surround myself by people who inspire me. You know what I'm saying? And when I see my friends doing things, then I'm like, that's incredible. It makes you feel like you could do it too, where it's real.
It amplifies you.
Yeah, and that's the only kind of people and energy I want around me that are gonna encourage you to keep doing whatever it is you want to do. You know what I'm saying? People like Clark D, people like Cameron and Steph in Thrill, people like and we're not around each other all the time anymore, but I went to camp with Jose What Up, Isaiah Valmont. When I saw him get signed to Internet Money, I was like, I know him, like, that's crazy.
Like, I used to be able to see him in person.
I can still call him, like, that's crazy to me, and I'm like, it seems so weird, because you're thinking about, like, looking back, these things that you might not think were all that, like camp or anything else, like, those are just small things, just being around people, and we have shared love for certain things. They're doing something else incredible, even from afar, like, that inspires me. I have friends who have nothing to do with music, who are like in finance and you name it, real estate, whatever, killing it, doing their thing, like breaking generational curses in their families. And I'm like, bro, that inspires me. You know what I'm saying? So who am I to sit here and doubt myself when those are the kind of people that are looking right back at me and being like,
and they believe in you.
You're an inspiration, bro. Like, you're doing your thing. Like, those are the only people I want to be surrounded by, because you push each other to do better, and that's like one of the subtle ways that happens.
Do you feel as though with all those great and amazing people and those friends you have, do you think that when you look at them, you say, you know what, I want to be the best that I can, so that when we come together and we're at the round table,
100%.
we can share our amazing stories,
100%.
and nobody's feeling left behind.
Bro, I have friends right now that are like that started making, 100K plus right out of college. You know what I'm saying? And that's going on damn near 4 years ago now. Well, 3 into 4, I guess. And bro, like, there's times I feel so behind, but then I look at the spaces we're in, and I remember, like, everybody has their own path. I don't know the challenges they're facing. I don't know, it's not always about the money thing, but they could still look at me and be inspired and want to support in different ways, stuff like that. And I think about it, I'm like, I'm not gonna go back to my college reunion and be, you feel me? Like, not having figured out, like, we came from the same places. I could do it too. I'm just gonna do it my way.
Mm-hmm.
So absolutely, yeah, that 100% encourages me, even in my, like, friend circles too.
That's a fact. So how does your personal life and your creative process interfere? Like, you might have personal problems and you might have work problems.
Yeah.
When they mesh, and it creates an explosion, what happens? What does Sadiq do?
When they
When they interfere, when they might make you get in your own way.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a great question. Okay, I feel like it happens a lot. One of the things I've had to do is learn to compartmentalize. I still don't think I'm that great at it. Because, life happens and creatives draw inspiration from life and all this other stuff. I feel like a big thing that I've learned in the past year and a half or so is setting personal boundaries, right? And I've gotten a lot better with doing that with family, with friends, with pretty much everybody. And when I've set those boundaries, sometimes I have to set them with myself too, where it's like I love doing the stuff I do. I do this and go for broke for it. I do. Like, am I going to allow something that's probably going to happen anyway that's out of my control for real interfere with the things that I want to do in the future that I'm planning for myself? No. I like I said, it's a process. Like, I try. I'm not always great at it. There can be points where, like, there's a significant loss in my family, or I don't know, I'm going through something personally, and that stuff affects me. That might make you not really want to come out the crib. That might make you sit down for real and reevaluate a lot of things. With this being something that I love, I try to protect that energy as much as possible. Also, oftentimes, when I do have a lot of stuff going on at home, this creative stuff and the community that I surrounded myself by are the things that comfort me in those moments. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'd rather be putting on an event that's going to make me feel really comfortable and a lot of pride in my neighborhood and the things that I'm doing than be at home in my room upset for real. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And I feel like they're always going to interfere. I feel like Clark is somebody who really showed me that. And he's like, we can't necessarily make excuses for stuff like that. I don't think that's the best way to look at it. I respect that point of view. But, like, I don't know. They interfere all the time. And it's just like you have the decision to make of how are you going to allow them to interact with one another. And I'd rather have my interactions be positive, because whatever might have happened personally might be extremely negative. So it's like, I make the best of it for real, and move at whatever percentage you feel like you're at that day.
That's great, because you really operate from how you're feeling inside.
Exactly.
And you navigate the world as best as you can.
Yeah, and I feel like there's also points where you gotta take the time to yourself. Like, you might be like, I don't got it today.
You don't want to burn out.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
So, as far along as you are now, and as great as you are at taking pictures and capturing the moment, and really just sharing your vision, there's always things that we regret, that we wish we could have done. So that segues into my question: what do you wish somebody could have been like, yo, Sadiq, sit down. I gotta tell you, this is what you're gonna go through when you start doing this. What do you wish you could have known before you picked the damn camera up?
I wish I knew how much time it would take. Like, honestly, like one of the first programs I got put in years and years ago was run out of the Harriet Tubman House off Mass Ave, and it was a program called Peace and Focus, and my father put me in the program, and it was basically teaching you the basics of photography, and they also taught you Photoshop. I wish I paid attention in those classes more, because, like, I'd be a beast today. Like, I'd be so much better than I am right now, and I don't even feel like I'm that great for real. But it's like, if I had understood photography more, not just conceptually, but like technically, I feel like I'd have such a better mastery of it. And there's so many people I look to that inspire me for real in the photography and videography game that I'm like, dang, like I wish I understood this as much. But now that I'm a part of so many different things, it's really tough to say, because I'll be like, it's not even that I'm not willing to put in the time, but I'm just like, there's other things going on that are important to me too. And it's like, I love this as a hobby and to support the grander visions that I have, but I might not have the time or energy to put into like true mastery of it. So
that's great, man. Like, you know, there's things that you just wish you knew, goddamn.
Yeah.
But when it comes to doing what you do, what do you enjoy the most? If you can pick out one singular thing that brings you the most ecstasy, the most joy, you know, the most pleasure, what is it? What is that one thing you can pinpoint and say, you know what, this right here is what makes my photography, and it's what makes all the time putting into this worth it?
Like I said, capturing those moments, but also like what I think I do this for is for people to connect. Like, I can see that connection in a number of different ways. I can see that connection. I've seen that connection as far back as like when I was in college and working production, and we press one button and a stadium of 50,000 people goes crazy.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we did that. You know, like that was crazy.
That's
like
pride.
We did that. You know, like I do it to feel proud of what I do. I don't do it for the validation. You feel me? But like to show people the beauty in themselves and be like I want my little cousin, she'd look back 10 years later on this beautiful picture of her and be like, Dickie took that. You know, or my grandfather, God forbid something happens to him, that might be the picture they use, you feel me, for his funeral or something. That's how people want to remember him. Like, I do it for those moments, you know, where people are like, thank you so much for that. This is gonna live on, you feel me? And even if it's a small part of me being a part of their story, I love that.
So something like nothing could take away. Like, they could never take it away from you, that this is what you were able to provide.
You feel me? That's, yeah, exactly.
That is it right there.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you a couple more questions. I want to see, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Who do you see yourself becoming?
Ooh, this is hard.
And it's a cliche question, but
Yeah.
I feel as though that you can visualize, not just for today, not for what happened in your past, but for the future.
One of the things, 5 years is tough because I have like lifelong things I want to do, right? So like, I want to be a philanthropist. I'd love to be in a position where I can invest or donate a lot of money to different programs, specifically around youth. I just feel like I benefited from so many different nonprofits growing up that it's important to give back in those ways. I do see myself facilitating something like that and building out infrastructure as far as like music and creative spaces in Boston. If there's anything I can do to help implement stuff like that here, I want to do it. And when I say that, to be very specific, I mean like, you go to any other creative city or big music market in America, Chicago, you know,
New York,
Atlanta, there's these legendary studios, Los Angeles, you know what I'm saying? You can go to Atlanta and have a Stankonia Studios or any of the dozens of others that are there. You feel me? New York has a bunch of amazing studios. LA, I mean,
we know what's going on.
You know, so it's like, but what's going on here? Where are the legendary studios here? I feel like there are people making strides doing stuff like that. Like Sound Lab in Brockton, they're doing an incredible job. They're going to be wonderful in a couple of years. They're already great. But you know, I'd like to see like somebody, like some big artist come back and create a big studio here, so you know we can share the information and all that.
Give back to New England.
Yeah, and I want a space like that. Like, matter of fact, smack it in the middle of Mattapan. it's not cliche for real. I don't think so. I'm like, nah. If you have creative people and they want to like actually think about how they can create careers from this stuff and not just be looked at as something that's like, what the hell are you doing? Create infrastructure. Show them it can be real. Show them that there are business people that will get behind you and do all this other stuff, because a lot of people don't know that. One thing that's been on my list for a long time, I'm gonna work with Kendrick Lamar.
Yes.
I don't know.
Manifest it now.
I've been saying this since I was in college. I got high power tattooed on my wrist.
Man,
like, I've been a fan forever, and I'm gonna work with Kendrick
You're
Lamar.
going to work with Kendrick Lamar, Sadiq.
I don't know what capacity.
Claim it now.
I just know it's gonna happen. I see myself. I want to tour the world.
That's amazing, bro.
You know, I want to help other people from where I come from see the world. That is extremely important to me. I want to own a home. You feel me? I don't know. I feel like I can be so many different things. So like it's weird. I wanna curate a festival here in Boston that I'm putting on, not for somebody else. Man, I don't know. I have so
much, man.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, what do you think in in 5 years the New England art scene and the photography scene, and like you mentioned, in the big money markets, LA, New York, Atlanta, you know, they have these big places where they have spray paint, they have murals of famous artists and legends. What do you see New England cultivating in terms of art and photography?
That's amazing. Wow. That's tough to say. You know, I feel like there are amazing photographers here. From like the Eves. I know OJ, she's like legendary. Oh my God, there's so many names I can't even like Carter's great at what he does. Camera girl, Shelly. There's a lot. You know, I couldn't really ever exhaust the list for real. I don't know. I'm gonna be real. I don't know. Yeah. I think the music scene's definitely having a resurgence. Well, it's been here, but like for the young crowd and me being able to witness it like firsthand, I'm like, this wave is incredible. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how that pans out. Who blows? Who gives back to the city? Like, you know what I really want to do? Something that I love to see. One thing that I respect, the way that Kendrick and TDE specifically do their free concert for Compton every year around the holidays. I want to see something like that here. I want to see them giving back unselfishly to the environment that made them, and that's been a big goal of mine. To help other big artists who want to give back, like the Coys, maybe the Joyner Lucases, the Stizzes, the Bias, all these people who have expressed on social media and otherwise that they want to give back, but they might not know how for it to be a meaningful space or way to do that. And I would love to be a part of those conversations so we can find what's going to provide the most impact.
That's love. And this is, we're coming up on our last question. This is the chance for you to pop your shit, Sadiq. What is the most substantial moment in your career to date and why? And this right here, I need you to pop your shit right here.
Aha, that's funny. Most substantial. Let me think.
The moment where you can go and brag to somebody, said Sadiq did this, I did this.
I'm very proud of the Blair Bitch Project.
Yes, I heard it was jumping.
That was the most recent thing I did. I was just so happy to see that come to reality. And like for so many people to experience it with us, you know, like I really wanted to help provide not a new platform, but a moment for women in hip hop in Boston, and even invite something new. You know, that's probably like a small version of what I said I want to do, curating.
What you're
like,
capable of,
what I want to, like, curating a festival someday down the line by myself. Like, that's like a small piece of that, proof of concept. And like, I was very proud because we worked on that for like a couple months, you know what I'm saying? And seeing that come together was really, really great, especially with all the partners we had. But when it comes to something braggable, I'm definitely gonna brag when I meet Kendrick Lamar.
Yes, you can't go wrong.
You know, I don't want to sound like
wrong.
a dickhead saying that, but like, nah, like,
I met Kendrick.
when that happens, I'm not gonna stop talking.
You shouldn't. You fucking shouldn't. Because most people don't get into that space to be able to interact with him.
You know.
But I want to thank you, Sadiq, so much. I learned so much personally, not just being an interviewer, being a person. I'm a person who want to learn more. I want to be in one of your photo shoots. Maybe you've excited me because you have great energy, and I want to thank you for coming to Put in Work TV and, you know, gracing us with your story and really just providing some insight into maybe how other New England photographers and people interested in art can also have the same impact and also help their local artists and their friends and build them up. Because the same way, you know, you help Key and you work with Thrill, somebody might watch this interview and say, you know what, if Sadiq can do it, a guy with glasses used to play video games, and I'm at home on my PC every day, maybe I can do it too and not be called a weirdo. So I want to thank you so much for your time, bro, and thank you for sharing your story.
Appreciate it.
It was amazing to meet you.
Yeah, thank you, bro.